Just wondering how everyone's doing this evening. We'll be starting soon. 6:02. So the first order of business, we've now called the meeting to order. We're going to go ahead and announce that we have made a couple adjustments to the agenda. First thing is the amendment to the bylaws. So we're going to go ahead and remove that off of the agenda. And then instead, we're going to put in election for a current position we have open on the board. Are we all in agreement of that? Do I get a second of that motion? All right, thank you for the board members. Now that we have approved the meetings from last August, that was on the 28th. Also September 26th. Have you guys already reviewed that documentation?
This is Richie Bryan. I make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
This is Sue. I'd like to make a change. So one thing I just quickly like to add for September 28th, that meeting,
26th.
excuse me, the 26th. For the new schedule that has been set online, general for the full license and the provisional license as well as the educational license. We just quickly need to add educational for the full license. That hasn't been put on the meeting minutes, so that needs to be added. Educational for the full license for the September meeting minutes. Thank you, Sue. Richie, you have something?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as corrected.
Do I have a second for that?
This is Leslie, seconded. Those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected, show of hands.
Thank you. Now, next order of business.
Board updates.
If you all know, Trudy Suggs is no longer in this meeting. She has decided to step down from the board. And so we would like to thank her for her service and all of her support thus far and how she has helped us. We definitely appreciate how she has led the board, and we thank her. The board thanks Trudy, for all of her support and everything that she has done. Now we're going to move forward with elections.
With that information, Trudy's resignation, that would mean the position of chair is now vacant. So I would like to request that we begin by nominations for the chair position so that we can proceed with the meeting.
This is Paige. I second that. Paige, I know you second that. Anyone else in favor? Raise their hands. Okay, that has now passed. So we're going to go ahead and open up the chair position.
This is Sue. I nominate Jacob for the position of chair.
This is Paige. I second that. Paige, I notice you second. Unfortunately, I have a conflict because I cannot, unfortunately, elect since I have been nominated. And so how would we move forward?
I will go ahead and run in your proxy until the elections have taken place, and then I can turn things back over to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Paige.
Okay, so I'd like to open up nominations. Sue, recognizing that you nominate Jacob for the next chair of the State Board of Sign Language Interpreters, could I get a second to that?
This is Leslie. I second that.
Seconded by Leslie. Board recognizes Richie Bryant.
I would like to propose that the nomination be closed and we go ahead and vote on that.
Okay, second for the call to vote and closing the nominations.
This is Leslie. I second that.
Okay, now those in favor of Jacob moving into the chair position, please raise your hand. All right, by unanimous decision, congratulations, Jacob.
Thank you all. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move over back into my role of running the meeting. So regarding the chair and the vice chair position that's now vacant. So I'm wondering what we would do. Will we propose a nomination for vice chair now? The board recognizes Richie Bryant.
I would like to nominate Leslie for vice chair.
This is Paige. I second that. Paige, I notice you second. We're going to go ahead and propose that nomination for vice chair be Leslie Paluzzo.
So I move to close current nominations and call the vote.
Do I get a second on the board? Richie, I notice you second. All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward with that nomination. All in favor of vice chair position being Leslie, please raise a hand. And that has now passed. Congratulations, Leslie.
Thank you.
The board recognizes Richie.
Now, because we still have two more vacancies on the board, one representative former PC RID, as well as I believe the second or do we just have one representative
This
seat
is Leslie. There are
vacant?
two. So there are two positions that need to be filled. The town member as well,
Community member.
community member. Thank you for acknowledging that, Richie. Now we acknowledge Leslie.
Thank you. So to Richie Bryant's point, I think it's important because there are many, many community members online who are watching right now. And as we know, the law specifically dictates diversity and representation from all areas of the state geographically, as well as different identities and backgrounds. So I would encourage anyone watching who is interested, please go through the application process. You don't need to be nominated to join the board. You can go ahead and feel free to apply, and that would help us as a board move forward and continue. We want to be involved with the community, and we very much value your feedback.
Yes, thank you so much for that. We definitely want inclusion and diversity here with the board, so feel free to go ahead and apply. You can find that information online at gov.odhh@maryland.gov. There are two positions currently available. Now, Leslie, the board recognizes Leslie.
I also want to share with everyone that I am currently teaching in real time. So I just want to let the folks watching know that I am going to have to turn off my camera. I am still in here, but I also have to do a dual role in focusing on my class. So I am here with everybody. I
Thank you
just
so
won't be
much
on
for that.
screen for the entirety of the meeting.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the board report. Regarding we've been involved in a number of, so regarding the website portal. For the past month, at CCBC, there has been
At CCBC and Salisbury are two of the respective locations where we participated in the website portal demonstrations. Myself and Sue Beaver attended the Salisbury presentation, and then there was a third presentation that was also done online that we were able to participate in.
So we received feedback from the community members and also interpreters as well regarding that process, the regulations, etc. After discussion with the community as well, we have already heard all of your needs, and we just wanted to get everything clarified that needed to be, and regarding the regulations and how it may impact interpreters. So we want to be more open and be clear that we are here to hear the community. All right, it seems like that's all I have for my board report. Is there anything else anyone would like to add?
I certainly can go ahead with
The
my
board
report.
recognizes Richie. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm complete with my report. I believe Governor Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Ursula, will come on for her report. Thank you, Jacob. All right, so I'll go ahead and add the spotlight for the interpreter. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ursula DeBarry. I'm the director for the Office of the Deaf, Hard of Hearing. Thank you all for having me this evening. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to respond and give my report. Now I'm going to make comment to the appointments. I've already made contact with the appointment office, and that is related to PCRID chair and also the new community chair as well. I have followed up with PCRID back on September 27th. So they have until October 11th, which is 2 weeks, to give me a response, which I have yet to hear back from. I have yet to hear word from them. However, we are here to, excuse me. So we are working closely with the Deputy Chief of Staff, also known as COS, and their office with any communications related to the new chair position for Jacob. Moving forward to the next thing, JCR, the Joint Chairman Report. We have received a thank you email and also a approval from our legislative analyst, Natalie Andrade.
Nathanly on Roddy.
Natalie Andrade. ODHH has approved the JCR extension request that was given to us, and the report was due at the end of September, and the extension has been given until the October 18th. So we're looking for any update regarding SBSLI, which is a response on following any changes to the past, any changes recently made. They have access to respond, which means that we are required to acknowledge a few things. The update on the State Board of Sign Language Interpreters, Chapter 269 and 270 of 2023 Maryland Sign Language Interpreter Act established the State Board of Sign Language Interpreters under the Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, ODHH bill. Regarding that, through the calendar year of 2023, the Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing has worked with the board members, the appointed board members, in regards to defining the licensure requirements for the state of Maryland. The committee would like to know a report about how operations have been, a list of the appointed board members, the progress that has been made, and the requirements regarding the sign language interpreters, and also the registry. We're going to establish a Maryland registry and a database for the sign language interpreters strategically to support our interpreters through the state licensure or those who are non-licensed.
Year-to-date and projected fiscal 2025 revenue in the Sign Language Interpreter Fund.
The methods that we have employed is to receive and process any of the funding regarding the methods of operation and the process for the complaints, regarding also those related to fraud submissions.
Key performance indicators or metrics that are going to be used to assess the success and impact of the licensure program.
And that's in regard to fiscal 2024 and fiscal year 2024, 2025.
And the community
Regarding,
engagement activities held during the fiscal year regarding services and licensure.
so I've decided to respond to the new chair for our outreach interpreter manager, Tanea Brown, and also Diamond Hallenberg, who is the administrative assistant. So we'll continue to work with you with a number of these things throughout the calendar year. Tanea will make comments about the program related to SBSLI. Now that we know what's going on in our offices, and maybe you all are aware that the state indeed also Maryland State Agency regulations are on COMR, notice the Code of Maryland Regulations, title, and on behalf of our office, the Governor's Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, it took some time to respond to their questions related to the location of the system regarding our regulations. So for Title 14, we are currently an independent agency. And additionally, we are prepared a transmittal memo to go out with the draft, working with Allison Butler. She was advised by the Assistant Attorney General, and thank you for that as well. And now we are no longer working alone. So of course I have to wait to go through GOFA, the Governor's Office for Financial Administration. So we are working together right now on the economic impact of the proposed regulations according to state governor. This is in relations to the proposed regulations that have already been accorded to the state governor on behalf of
And
us.
they
So thank you for that.
and they'll speak to the estimated economic impact of those proposed regulations.
So we're going to get a clean copy of the regulations, and then we will proceed forward after that.
DLO, Deputy Legislative Officer.
DLO, the Deputy Legislation Officer,
June Chung,
and also our Deputy Chief of Staff, Pakua, last name Awu, Achawa, what we call her PK. So we have a few days before we move on. There's a little bit of confusion because there is already the Assistant Attorney General here to support, and the Assistant Attorney General has already signed the legislation that satisfies what's called the Notice of Regulation Development Form. After that is complete, we will propose that to AELR. AELR is our administrative, executive, and legislative review. It takes about 30 days for that process.
13.
The submission of this will be, it's a pretty intense process. There is a deadline of a 30-day process and a 15-day process. And so we are ensuring that when we are complete with that process internally, then we can move forward with our own timeline that we have established. There's an update to the office hours for this month for board members and community members to stop by if you would like to chat, if you have any questions. Serious business, non-serious business, feel free to come in and chat with me Thursday, October 24th from 12 to 2, and also on Monday, October 28th from 6 to 8. I will be sure to post that on. I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me the time to give my report. I will provide any other updates online. Thank you all. I'll go ahead and turn off my screen and turn it over back to Jacob. Ursula, very quickly, you have a question for me?
Could you finish the portion about when your open office hours were, since you froze halfway through that? Was there anything else after your office hours?
Oh, regarding the open
Open door,
office
my
hours,
apology. Yes, sorry,
the
that's what I meant.
open door hours. So I will be sure to I just want to ensure that you guys know you can stop by at any time. Feel free to come on in for my open door hours. It's not specifically for business meetings or anything official business. It can be for a brief chat if something comes up if it could be related to SBSI related as well. Is there anything else?
Chair, I actually did have a thought. Director DeBerry, wouldn't you mind submitting your report via text ahead of time next time? That way we have a chance to ruminate on it prior to the meeting, please and thank you.
Sure thing. So before I move forward with the report, the board has some updates. regarding the transition to the former chair, Trudy, and the duties now being transferred over to me. And now the vice chair position is now available. And so we will proceed forward as usual.
I'm sorry, Chair, for clarification, the transition of your role into
Correct.
the chair position. Is
From
that what you're
Trudy's role
saying?
onto my chair. So now being in the chair role, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I am happy being in this position, I'd admit. Moving down to the Maryland Association of the Deaf, Richie Bryant, you having a report?
Thank you, Chair. Let me pull up the document. Actually, I can summarize this pretty quickly. All right, I appreciate the opportunity. A few key highlights that I'd like to mention as part of my report. Since my swearing in this past June, the last week of June specifically, I was not able to access any of the information until approximately 3 weeks ago when I finally was able to access the board drive. And I was finally able to dive in and get involved with board business, which is, of course, the responsibilities expected of me by the deaf community in Maryland. Of course, we had our recent impromptu meeting regarding the regs, which was taken care of. Now, as of late, we have developed what is called a scope of work, or SOW, specifically for platform interpreting. Platform interpreting can incorporate conference interpreting, theatrical interpreting, and alike. So that scope of work is being developed. The reason being is I want to bring in SMEs, or subject matter experts, in that area, several of them, to have some conversations about developing this document, this scope of work, in terms of what the expectations are for platform interpreters. And from that, we will be drafting new regulations specifically for platform interpreting. After being approved, then we will start working on a group to bring that to fruition. Okay. We will be, of course, seeking community input once that draft has been approved. Now, when it comes to Chair Suggs's resignation, I have to admit I am disappointed. This, of course, highlights the issues. I have received a lot of correspondence regarding concerns about transparency when it comes to the regs, transparency, frankly, with a variety of issues. We as a board have faced innumerable barriers throughout our tenure. For example, as I just mentioned, I just recently was able to access the drive because I just recently got my state email address. Okay. And not to point fingers, the point I think is moving forward. How do I say? I am hopeful for better communication, better transparency, and more effective collaboration with the Governor's Office of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Bear with me as I look at my notes. So I think it is critical that we break down some of these barriers that have prevented the board from doing the work that we have been tasked to do. And I look forward to a positive, healthy relationship between the governor's office and the board moving forward so that we can complete the work that is expected from the state of Maryland and that we have been charged with.
Any other comments? Thank you so much, Richie Bryant. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chair.
Moving down to PCRID updates. Right now, we have no representative from PCRID for the board member position. We're going to go ahead and move forward with picking a representative for that position on the board. Currently, we have a small working group of 4 people, but a full board would be 7, so we're hopeful to that. Moving down to the next order of business, the working group. Previously, as a vice chair, regarding the working group, we've been focusing on a number of different things: legal, medical setting, trilingual interpreters, educational, etc. In regards to the working group, and also the regs that correspond to those, We have heard from the community of interpreters and also the concerns that have been brought back to the working groups. And after compiling all of that information, we will then respond to that very soon. We do have 3 new working groups, one for mental health, one for deaf-blind, and Richie Bryant just mentioned the platform. Paige will be the lead for the deaf-blind working group, and Richie Bryant will be the lead for the platform interpreting working group. Leslie will be the lead for the mental health working group. And through that process, the board has agreed to postpone until January 2026 and propose that timeline for ODHH to have finalized the regulations for January 1st, 2025. That'll give them time to prepare prior to January 1st. In the meantime, I would assume that we would be done around February time, possibly around March. Richie Breyer did mention, there was a mention of ALER, et cetera. And so we're hopeful. Maybe in February, possibly March, depending regarding the regulations. There's a question, Sue, the board recognizes Sue.
Yes, could you please clarify the dates again? There's some confusion in the chat regarding the January 2026 you mentioned and then the 2025 January, specifically because I know you're speaking to the specializations. If you wouldn't mind providing some clarification on that, please, and thank you, Chair.
Regarding the regulations, settings such as legal, medical, behavioral health, mental health, deaf-blind, platform, and I think I'm missing a group. We would like to become effective January 1st, 2026. The board has decided in a previous meeting the finalized will be posted January 1st, 2025. July, interpreter error, clarifying July 1st, 2025. That way the interpreters have time to look over those things prior to January 1st, 2026. Is that clear?
For those specializations in those fields. Yes, we want to emphasize we're talking about the specializations, not the general licensure.
More discussion related to working groups. Are there any other comments? Now, in regards to the regulation updates, in a previous meeting, September 26th, I want to be clear that the board recognizes the deadline of January 1st for the licensure. There is a provisional license, educational specialized license, provisional educational license. So there are 4 specialized groups that have been postponed to January 1st, 2026. For a full license and a provisional license and an educational.
Those will all go into effect January 1st, 2025.
For January 1st, 2026, the full license will be effective, law, legal, medical, etc. All specialized fields would have been then set up. For the complaint process, we will not be withdrawing that until the board has further investigations regarding the process, the due process.
And a person will not be revoked a license until the board has the opportunity to investigate in its entirety and do their due process. We as a board will move forward with an investigation. However, that interpreter's right to work will not be suspended. It's important that interpreters have the ability to go through due process before their license is
The board recognizes
impacted.
Richie.
I just think it's important to emphasize that anyone who files a grievance is always required and due an investigation. Depending on the board's findings, the findings might be that it's not significant enough to pursue, or the findings might be the opposite. And of course, there will be an option in terms of what the consequences will be based on the nature of the violation.
I did forget to mention the effective July 1st, 2026, that will then lead to the regulations and
Now we're going to talk about reg updates.
we have made a couple of modifications. And Sue, would you like to give updates on those modifications that we have made thus far?
Certainly, Chair Leffler. Okay. And related to education, full and provisional licenses related to K-12 education, we have made 2 changes. We have heard from the community, their concerns, their feedback, and their questions. And for the education regs, as I mentioned, we've made 2 changes as a result of that feedback. The first change is that, again, the educational requirements for the interpreters themselves, for example, the requirements of a bachelor's degree or an ITP or AA or BA degree, or, for example, a portfolio, those 3 things, we have removed that requirement. In addition to that, the second change that we have made, let me check my notes, is that originally we were requesting 2.0 CEUs every 2 years. We have reduced that amount to 1 CEU every 2 years as a requirement. Okay, now the caveat to that being that 1.0 CEU, half of that, 0.5 specifically, has to include PPO training. In addition to that, I want to provide some additional clarification because I've got a lot of questions to this point. A national certification and an EIPA are both not required. Okay, it is either or. So a K-12 interpreter can hold a national certification or an EIPA. You do not need both. And I believe that concludes the update.
Thank you, Sue. I want to make a comment related to the CEUs and the concerns related to that. For all the specialized entities, we are in agreement that we do need to reduce the number of required CEUs, and we believe that will help satisfy the RID requirement for that, for CEUs. There's over 11 hour requirement, excuse me, that has been reduced. The number of CEUs has been reduced.
And it will equal the number of CEUs required by RID.
Do you have a comment, Sue?
Yes, I also just want to make mention of the fact that when we're speaking to RID CEUs, those can be also used for the educational CEUs. So you don't have to do additional CEUs. I know RID, for example, requires 1.0 CEUs in the area of PPO. You can apply that to the CEUs required for the state. You don't have to do additional ones. So you can use them to both points. Okay, so what you get for an RID certification can satisfy the state requirement as well.
Thank you. Any more discussion related to the regulations? We
Since
have
we,
made it.
go ahead.
We have made a proposed vote on the discussed regulations.
We need a motion. We're opening up to vote for a change to the regs since we've made some substantive changes. Okay, so we have a
I see a
motion
notice of
by
a second.
Sue. Mhm. Okay, any further discussion on the regs?
Now we're going to close that vote. All in favor of the adjustment to the regulations? Seems that SEP has passed. So the regulations have been approved, and I will go ahead and send that over to ODHH after this meeting. I will request for them to post on their website, also for the community as well, to be able to take a look at the regulations. I want to be clear that the regulations are open to the public. They are not open to the public just yet, but we are in the process, as Ursula had just mentioned, to the community. So look forward. We want to ensure that you all feel comfortable with the regulations prior to. And so we have been in work for some time now. We want to ensure that all interpreters are ready for the licensure moving forward, as well as the community. So if you all would like to contact the chair or any of the board members to provide any feedback on the process or any modifications that need to be made, the public comments can be accepted and will be addressed later. So we look forward to seeing ODHH post the regulations for the community to have access to. I believe that's all I have regarding the regulations. Regarding the website portal, we would like for Tanae to come online so she can give more information regarding that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chair. All right, can everybody see me? Can I proceed with my report?
Yes.
Okay, so for the website portal, I'm not sure when it will be released because we just received the new regulations. That being said, the goal is all applications to be received by January 1st. We definitely will communicate to the community via social media, all of our social media channels, and via our website when the applications are released.
The board recognizes Richie.
Clarification, Tania. You mentioned, okay, we recognize that you're not sure when they're going to be posted, okay? We're talking about the portal specifically, okay? So is there some overlap in terms of when it goes on the website? I need some clarification. So you just approved the regs, and of course they will be posted on the website. When it comes to the portal, we're dealing with the contractor. However, a lot of the portal specifics are contingent on the regs. So now we're going to be making some adjustments to the portal based on the regs as now approved.
This is Richie. I do understand that. And so regarding the feedback that will be addressed later after you all post, then we will have the opportunity to, with community, with their feedback based on the regulations. And then once we receive that, we'll be able to make modifications to that. I just want to be clear on that process. Am I right or wrong on that?
Okay, so a little bit of a separate process. We've been working with Do It since this past July. Okay. And the process is almost at its completion. So we recognize that the regs have to go out for public comment before they are officially published in the registry, to your point. So,
Oh, this is new information to the board. My question now is related to now that it will soon be finished and open for public comment. The board feels like there should be a time to make adjustments. And so how would that work for the portal to provide modifications?
well, this is something that we need to have further conversation with Director DeBerry on because there is a price point attached to this as well. Okay. And if Director DeBerry could maybe come on screen and explain that in a little more
Ursula, are you available?
depth, because there's a financial component involved with the portal, which I'm not privy to necessarily.
Thank you so much for your question, Jacob. When we are complete with the timeline related to the contractor, do it, the technology contractor we are using, we have a strict timeline of 12 weeks. So we ask for an extension just to avoid any conflicts with making modifications, because I actually have to go back to the scope of work and ensure that it is in alignment with the regulations and make adjustments. So from the start to board members joining to the AAG, the process provided from the Assistant Attorney General, with all that in consideration and the funding, we have to continue with the work. But they are willing to work with us. Once this board decides on any of the changes needed, hopefully it will be by having a new deputy director who will then be responsible for helping us update the regs. And I will be sure to match the fees of the regulations with those of RD. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Director DeBerry. Question for you. So I recognize your comments about the changes and how the fee structure will need to be adjusted and how that's going to need to be updated on the portal and how you're working with Do It to that point and that they're going to be available to do an extension for troubleshooting. Now, my question is, moving forward, what level of flexibility do we have when it comes to the portal when you're working with Do It?
In response to Richie Bryant, yes, we have a little bit of flexibility with that. However, considering the timeline with the contractor who is currently working with us, and again through the deputy director, because it's their responsibilities to communicate those things, what's happening with the regulations and any of the updates regarding that. And all those things will go through Tanea. So we just want to ensure that communication is open and transparent regarding that and all support needed moving forward. Thank you for all of your work. We appreciate hearing from you all. We want this to be an effective partnership. Thank you, Ursula. Any other comments related to website portal? Tonight, I'm wondering if you have any other comments related to the website portal. Next is the application process.
Certainly. When everybody is ready to fill out their application, they will fill out the application. They will pay their fee. I will look over said application, make sure all their documentation is present, and then that will be passed along. I believe within 30 days, it'll go through one stop where you will register for an account before it is approved.
The board recognizes Richie.
So you mentioned the application process and the fees, okay? In terms of guidelines, how long it will take people to know whether their application has been approved, just things like that. Is there anything in writing and in documentation for what that will look like in terms
Do you
of
mean in regards to the
policy?
policy or the fees? Of course, you will not know how many fees to anticipate regarding that. I want to clarify, is that your question?
No, I recognize that not related to the regs specifically, but I'm talking about the application process. I recognize that people will know what the fee structure is, but is it going to be, it's going to be, of course, related to the regs in terms of timeline and things of that nature. The regs will dictate the application process to a point. And everything will be included, of course, within the portal, next steps. And you can, of course, reach out to the Governor's Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing. You should receive a confirmation email once everything has been accepted. But to that point, if you encounter any barriers, you would reach out to us.
I have a question related to the website portal. Do you mind if I can just jump in. There are a few interpreters who have asked, and also community members about the application for the website portal. So it's not clearly confirmed. Can you clarify what that process looks like for interpreters getting the regulations to going into One Stop Portal, et cetera?
Sure. So to your question about how to register for an account, okay, there's a link. During the portal demos, I was showing everybody, but actually, let me go back a little bit. Okay, so really, when it comes to the process, it's onestop.maryland.gov. You would register there for an account and, of course, put in all your demographic information. You will automatically be redirected at that point to your personal email, which will be verified. And from there, you will have an account established. Now, some people might not have received a confirmation email. The reason being is because they were using our mock demo online. That's why you haven't heard anything. That's not the actual one stop. Okay. We used it for demonstration purposes just to give folks a sense of what it looked like. One stop .maryland.gov is where you actually would go to register and set up your account, okay, for when ultimately you're ready to apply for licensure.
Thank you so much, Naya. For the interpreters and the community, feel free to set up your account or download the app for One Stop so you can go ahead and be ready for the application process once we set that up.
You're going to want to do that ASAP. And again, any problems with One Stop, please reach out to GODHH. We want to make sure that there are no bugs in the system.
Thank you so much. There are a few more questions related to the website portal and that process. Thank you so much for answering those questions. All right, we are done with all the old business, and now
Move on to new business and outreach. Of course, the draft regs are going to be posted on the website. I think it's important that we host town halls or information sessions to have conversations with the greater community. Looking at the timeline, being the month of October, do we want to set up something prior to the end of the year? See some nods to that effect. Would you like me to have some conversations with the Governor's Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing to try and pick some times and dates?
perhaps we can propose a X number of meetings for, say, in a year. And once that is approved, we can have discussion more with ODHH on how to, what that looks like and how to set that up to ensure that we don't hit a jam. Like X number of town halls, for example. That way, for the community to have open discussion, I think that would be a good approach, perhaps.
Certainly, that sounds like a great idea. So, how many times do you feel we should entertain a town hall moving forward? What should our cadence be?
I think the most important thing is that we can establish an eastern, western, northern area of Maryland. We can kind of play with the location.
Maybe between now and we can call our designated end time January, or we can move it further out. We do have the draft regs are now going to be posted, hopefully sooner than later. So maybe 2 between now and the month of November. Again, just general thoughts. What are you guys thinking in terms of timeline for engaging with the community via a town hall? grace period to get a sense of things. Okay, so hopefully we will have the final copy submitted of the regs by tomorrow. Again, this is the one that will go forth for public comment. And then, of course, Director DeBerry will have a certain amount of time to get those reviewed. So maybe between now and January, are we thinking? Or before December? Okay, any other thoughts from the other board members in terms of community engagement? Okay, this is Richie Bryant. I propose we host 3 town halls between now and December.
Do I hear a second? Second from Paige.
Page seconds, okay. Discussion on
Any
the
more
motion.
discussion on this? Perhaps we need more time to discuss with the community to see their concerns prior to the post. So
Okay, so to clarify, we want 3 town halls prior to December.
yes, that's what I'm proposing.
Okay, 3 town hall meetings before December.
Again, yes, that's what I'm proposing.
Okay, that seems pretty ambitious and a very busy time of year for folks, but that's a lot of town halls within a 10-week period, give or take, approximately. I mean, okay. All right, 3 was a brainstorm, maybe 2 in person and 1 virtually. Would that be an easier lift for folks? Okay, so we could, 1 second, we've got a frozen interpreter.
Unfortunately, one of the interpreters is frozen. All right, we're gonna go ahead and switch.
And I completely lost my train of thought. Where were we?
2 in person and 1 virtual.
All right, I'm also thinking, where are we planning to host these? Have we agreed upon locations? If we're thinking 2 in person, theoretically, where geographically are we considering?
I haven't thought of exact location to decide on now. We just wanted to kind of give the time to allow Jacob and Ursula perhaps to discuss what needs to be discussed and see what's the best time available. And then we can go ahead and work out from there, but allow them to go ahead and have that discussion first. I mean, yeah, it is 10 weeks considering. And so regarding schedule,
Okay, so if the board feels comfortable with a 3 town hall cadence, I think we should commit to that. I think that's going to be beneficial to us because it's going to allow us to garner more feedback from the community, and it's going to help provide clarification to information which may still be ambiguous. The community still has a lot of anxiety and concerns as it relates to the regs specifically, and I think it's important that we're there to provide clarity and transparency to the process. Now, does the board feel they want to proceed with that? If so, I think it's something we can certainly make happen.
two, 2 online, 3 town halls. I mean, that seems like a decent number.
Okay, I think we do 2 in person and 1 virtually. I think that's a nice balance for those folks who aren't able to attend in person. They have the option to join the virtual version. I like that idea of doing 2 in person and then 1 via an online platform such as Zoom. I think that's a good idea. I think what's important is that we get that information out there to the community. We have an opportunity to explain the regs so they understand them completely.
With this discussion in mind, I propose that the board go ahead and set up 3 town halls prior to December, being in person and 1 on Zoom.
Do I hear a
Do I hear a
second?
second?
Seconded by Sue. Okay, any discussion on the motion?
We
Okay,
can go ahead and vote.
fantastic. Okay, call the question. Those in favor of 2 in-person town halls and 1 virtually, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody. All right. Any other items under new business? Okay, seeing
I
none.
would go ahead and like to propose that we close.
Okay, that concludes new business. That brings us to the public comment part of our agenda. The board has received several pieces of public comment. We appreciate everybody's involvement in the process and their feedback as it relates to the regulations. We've gotten a lot of comments, a lot of feedback from the community. I will at this point provide a summary of the comments we've received. The board does plan to respond after this meeting to each comment specifically and directly. Okay, the first is community concerns specifically about BEI. Okay, as a state board, we do not have BEI. That is a test that is housed in Texas, and they're questioning whether or not that would be recognized. The next one, there's been a lot of questions about those regs related to specializations and what is going to be required to that effect. In addition to that, educational K-12 interpreters have expressed a lot of concerns in terms of what the requirements will look like for their licensure. In addition to that, the grievance process, how to file a grievance, and if a filing of a grievance will result in an immediate suspension. An additional comment we have received was related to VRI and remote interpreting and whether that falls under the auspice of licensure or not. Also, there have been questions related to agencies. There are agencies out there that have expressed concern in terms of what they will be required to do to operate in the state of Maryland when it comes to licensure. And lastly, many folks in the community are concerned about the CEU requirement, particularly as it relates to those specializations. So again, we will be responding to each of those concerns after this meeting and communicating out with all of you. So thank you for those of you who emailed. We will be responding to your concerns.
That's all for now. I propose that we go ahead and close the meeting.
Okay, I look forward to seeing, oh, thank you, Richie. Okay, Paige is seconded, move to adjourn. Okay, we adjourn then at 7:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thank you, everybody, for being here.